You are listening to the 17th episode of the Armchair Army podcast. I am so excited to get this one started because we have ESPN broadcaster Adam Amin here, and he is going to talk about his favorite places to eat across the country as he's traveling 3 to 4 times a week. We also talk about his favorite game of the year, which might just include the WSU-USC game in Pullman this year. So really excited to get this one started as this is the biggest podcast that we've had thus far. Really pumped to get this one started. So without further ado, let's roll.
Couldn't be more excited to have Adam Amin on the Armchair Army today. Adam Amin from ESPN. Adam, how are you doing?
Everything's good, brother. How are you doing?
Oh, so good, man. Just happy to have you on here. So can you tell us a little bit about how you got started and why you wanted to become a broadcaster?
Yeah, I was actually just kind of messing around with it in high school. It wasn't really anything I was super into or anything that I thought was a career or anything like that. I would just call some football and basketball games on like the local public access station, and it wasn't really anything I took all that seriously. It was just an excuse for me to, watch the games and kind of comment on what my friends were doing more than anything else. And it turned into something that I actually really enjoyed. I had a friend of mine in high school who went to Valparaiso University in Indiana, and he was a few years older than me. And he told me that if I wanted to try broadcasting, I should come to Valpo. I could probably have an opportunity to be on the radio station there or something like that. He'd eventually become the general manager of the radio station in college. So he said, yeah, if you want to come try it and give it a shot, like you have a spot here. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do in college. Like I didn't really know what I wanted my major to be. I thought I was going to go to business school. I applied to Syracuse at one point, but didn't really pursue it all that seriously, and I don't even think I got in all honesty. So, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So he gave me kind of an out, and I decided, sure, let's try it. So I applied, I got in, and the first time I went to campus, I never even got a chance to see the campus before. So I ended up my first day there was basically like freshman orientation, and I went to the radio station and I said, hey, I was told to come here. What do I do? So that's how I got started, and I fell in love with it, just working at the radio station and being part of the broadcast, and all good, man. That's how it happened, and it just kind of took off from there.
Dude, that is crazy. That's absolutely crazy. So before you were a broadcaster and before you got into the radio station, did you play sports in high school or anything like that?
Yeah, I played football for a year. I played basketball for a couple of years. I played volleyball for 4 years. I really love sports, but I also ended up getting involved in theater and choir, and I was a violin player from the time I was 8. And I really enjoyed music and performance, and it was something I was still passionate about. So actually, when I got to college, I was splitting my time between acting and working at the radio station. And those were the kind of extracurricular things that I was really passionate about. And when I had to declare a major and when I had to kind of focus in on one thing or the other, I picked broadcasting. It was basically like performance in some capacity while watching sports. So it was kind of like the best of both worlds for me. And I don't regret the decision. It's easy to say that now, obviously, because things happen to work out. But I really am happy I made the decision that I made at that time, and it just allowed me to focus on it a little bit more and kind of gear everything I was doing towards trying to become a broadcaster someday. So that's kind of how that played itself out.
My goodness, man. Jack of all trades over there, Adam Amin. So you can act a little bit, you can broadcast. But so moving on forward with the broadcasting, now you're in ESPN, you travel all around. How do you deal with all the travel that you have to go through doing college games and basketball and NFL?
Yeah, the travel can get a little bit nuts, man. I know that's one of the tougher parts of it, I think. Just the process of it and the toll that it can maybe take on you. I'm happy to admit, I try to eat as good as well as I can, just because when I get on the road, I'm probably going to go out and not really take care of myself as much. So, that takes a physical toll on you. You're away from family and friends. That takes kind of a mental toll on you. Like, I ended up losing a relationship at some point this season because I was gone a lot, and I wasn't, it's not the best thing to deal with, like, just as a person, but there are so many more positives about it, and obviously the job is so great, it's so fun. The travel aspect of it can be great. Like, we travel and go to restaurants that we like, and we go to cool cities, and we get to go to cool college towns, and the process of it is kind of a grind, being on planes, packing all the time. The transportation aspect is a little bit, can be a little bit of a grind. The actual, like, visiting of these cities is great. You get to see a lot of the country that, you may never have gotten an opportunity to see otherwise. So, that's definitely one of the perks of it. There's more positive to it, I think, than negative.
Speaking of the cities that you've gone to, I'm from Spokane, and we do the podcast in Boise, but you got to call, I believe, the WSU-USC game. How was Pullman on that night?
It was an incredible atmosphere, and I kind of was hoping that it would live up to the billing, to have a top 20 games, one of the biggest home games in Martin Stadium in a long time, and the hype was there. The hype was real. To have a top 5 team and obviously to come out with a win, just to feel that energy over the course of, the 3.5 hours that we were there for that game. It was incredible. It was what you hope for when you call college football games. It's kind of what you hope to see every week. You want to be in these great atmospheres, and you want to experience the passion of it. And it's a unique sport. It really is. It's, I know college basketball is great. There were some great NFL atmospheres. I was in Minnesota the other day. It was really juiced for a big game. Vikings and Rams was a big game the other day, and you could tell that there was a lot of amped up energy. But, that's what's unique about college football. Everywhere you go, just about, can have that type of night depending on the game. And that's what it felt like that particular night at Martin Stadium. It was a different level of juice on that particular night, for sure.
That's absolutely awesome. And I do have to ask you, too, you were there when I know they play Andy Grammer in Home, and the whole stadium starts absolutely belting it out. Is it one of the best, I guess, songs that's played in the stadium?
I think it's pretty cool. I actually really enjoyed that. It reminds me of, like, when they sing, Country Road at West Virginia. It's just one of those kind of cool little moments you don't get to experience at a lot of other places. So when you can find something unique to that, to that stadium or to that city or to that campus or whatever, it's fun to experience anything like that.
Your job and your work, you've worked with so many people along the road. Who do you want to be in the booth with you that you've always dreamed of? It can be past or present with you.
I would have loved to have done a game with John Madden. I've always said that. I feel like he was so entertaining, especially in his prime. And you want to talk about one of a kind, that dude was one of a kind. And just the way he presented football in a completely different fashion, in a way that nobody had really ever seen or heard before. And, I'm a child in the 90s, so for me, Madden was, video, for me it meant video games and football. Like, that's what Madden meant to me. And, it's funny that we're talking during Thanksgiving week because, Madden was such a big part of this particular week when it came to the NFL too. So I always felt like he was such an entertainer at his best. At the end of the day, we're just trying to inform and entertain. That's our job. And he did that as well as anybody in any sport that's ever been a broadcaster. I feel like that would have been awesome to get a chance to do a game with him one day.
You bet. And who is the coolest person that you have met along the road, being in so many different cities? It can be a player, it can be a commentator that's been with you. Who's the coolest person?
Man, that's hard. Like, I'll say this, Lenny Elmore, like, legit one of just the coolest dudes you'll ever meet. You don't really use that term anymore. Like, you don't really use that word to describe that many people anymore. Like, not everybody's, like, there aren't just that many cool people. This dude is cool, man. Like, he's just got this level of confidence in him, and this wise cat who's just, he's seen so much, and he's had his hands in so many different parts of basketball. And I always marveled at him. You know, we got a chance to work together for a full season last year. And it's just, he's got a swagger about him, man. Like he's seen a lot. He's done a lot. You know, he's a thinker. He has experienced a ton. He knows so many people, and he's got so many great stories. And like, it's hard to call people cool. Like, that dude's cool.
That's definitely one of the people that I would love to meet one day. Just his knowledge of everything, it seems like, it's just second to none. So
yeah, I mean, he was a lawyer. He's been a lawyer. He's been an agent. He was an outstanding college player. He was a really good NBA player. He's been a broadcaster for the collegiate ranks and for the NBA. He's called some of the greatest games in college basketball history. So, like I said, man, he's had his hand in just like every aspect of basketball, and he's got stories for days and experience that trumps anything any of us could probably go through in a lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely. And I could waste a couple of days just talking to him. But you were a commentator, or you were actually a sideline reporter for the college football playoff championship last year on one of the broadcasts. Is there a event that you would love to call one day?
You know, I've always said, like, just wanting to maybe get to a point where you're calling, you know, like a World Series, maybe a Super Bowl, something like that. You know, it's hard to sit here and say, well, I want to do this, and this, because, you know, we get so caught up in the job itself and just trying to get through the daily grind and the weekly grind of it all. And, you know, we don't really get to step back sometimes and remind ourselves why we do this, you know, and at the end of the day, it's a good reminder to just say, hey, one day I'd like to do this. And for me, that's probably like, if I had to choose one event, it'd be like Game 7 of the World Series. You know, I just think that the drama of playoff baseball, and you know, this past season, I finally got to call my first playoff game for baseball, and it was just such a different atmosphere. It was unlike anything I've ever felt before. And to be on the play-by-play call of that was just really cool to me. So at some point, you know, maybe one day I'd like to be on the call of a World Series.
That would be super cool to hear you on one of those. And you're right, there is so many electric feels, I guess, inside the stadium of each sport. Is there a sport that you love to do the most on just a week-to-week basis, not even having a playoff game or anything like that, just calling a normal game?
You know, honestly, it ends up just kind of playing out with whatever the next game is. That's like the biggest game for me, you know, and it's, I think part of it is just the conditioning. You know, I've conditioned myself over the last 6 or 7 years to really be a guy who does a lot of games. I do maybe I've done anywhere from like 90 to 130 games in a calendar year for ESPN and, you know, other networks and stuff. So for me, it's just getting to the next game and being as prepared as possible for that game. And for me, preparation is basically an investment. So when you invest yourself and your week and your hours into a particular game, you want those games to be great, and you want those games to play out the way you hope they play out. I mean, if it were up to me, every game would go down to the wire, right? So, you know, when you put that much work into these games, you just hope for the best game possible. And a lot of the time, they won't live up to exactly what you played out in your head, but a lot of the times they'll play up to some hype, and they'll live up to some expectation, and there will be some element in each game that feels like, you know, if you paid it off with your preparation or you had a good call or whatever, it just kind of makes it worth it. And I've done enough games now at this point to know that every game can have something great or something very cool or something unique happen. So for me, the next game, whatever the next play, is the biggest thing to call. And so I try not to look ahead too much. Obviously, I look ahead in terms of preparation and trying to be aware of what we have to cover. So, you know, I'm just watching games or watching teams, whatever it may be. But in terms of the actual investment of yourself, I try to do it on a game-by-game basis, and that way the next game really is the most important game that I'm calling.
You could definitely feel it as well. Listening to, I guess, just you on the radio, you on TV, you could feel that the next game or the next play for you just seems like the biggest. And that's why you have so much, you're so popular, not only on Twitter or anything like that, but you're popular during the games because people feel that excitement coming off you. So I can definitely be one of those people that appreciate you for that. But we're actually going to get into a little fun now. We've gone through the grind here, so let's get into some fun. So You on Instagram, I mean, like, you go to the craziest places. You've been to Albuquerque this past week. You were in Minnesota. You come to Boise every now and then. What is the most, I guess, underrated restaurant that you've been to in the country that people don't know about that should?
Well, I'll give you a Boise place, and for us, it's Barbacoa, and I'm sure in Boise it's not, everybody knows that it's a really great place, but I don't think a lot of people get a chance to go to a place like Boise that often. So I would say Barbacoa is one of the great spots you'll ever go to. Man, there's so many great spots. I mean, Tallahassee's got an incredible run of restaurants. Even like going to Minneapolis this past week, like Bar La Grassa is one of the great joints in the country. They've got this soft egg and lobster bruschetta, and it's like that's something that people would kill to come have. Like you'd be hard pressed to find something as good as that in Minneapolis. Going to Al Bar in Utah, like just outside of Sundance, like that's an incredible place to go to. The food there is incredible. I mean, I could probably name you at least one joint in just about every city we go to, and it's hard to top, man. Like there's so many great places in this country, and I talked about this a lot too, just in terms of like food and restaurants. I'm always up for hearing more suggestions, always up for hearing more spots you can go to. But at the end of the day, I think the best thing you can do is just kind of explore on your own and find the place that you like, whatever it may be, whether it's based on recommendation or exploration. Like, just go find the joint that you like the most and say, hey, this is a spot I like. You should go there too if you ever get a chance. And that's how everybody finds these places to begin with. I just think it's really cool, the kind of community that you can build just based off food.
Well, your next time in Boise, I'm going to give you one that you are not going to want to miss. Like, seriously, it's called 10 Barrel Brewing, and it is a brewing house, but the steak nachos here, it's like blue cheese, gargonzola cheese. You will literally, it's potato chips with blue cheese on top, jalapeno steak. Like, it's mind-blowing. So that's your one task next time you come to Boise.
Oh, that sounds awesome, dude. I love that. Thank you so much for that suggestion.
Absolutely. And so, Adam, it's been so awesome talking to you, man. We appreciate you coming on. We can't wait to hear you down the road. I don't know if you're calling the Mountain West Championship game or anything like that, but we're excited to see what you have coming here. Adam Amin, ESPN, thank you so much again.
No problem, man. Really appreciate you.
Huge shout out to Adam Amin for coming on the podcast. I was really, really excited to have him on, and he did not disappoint. He talked about all his favorite food places, Barbacoa here in Boise, and his experiences during the WSU and the USC game. So really, really excited to have him on, and he definitely did not disappoint. So very, very glad he got to spend some time here on the Armchair Army. We are actually going to get into some segments, though, today. We are going to get into some regional roundup. So without further ado, let's go.
Regional Roundup.
All right, this is going to be one of the last regional roundups for the year for college football, as we have some crazy, crazy things to talk about because of the teams in the area and going to big bowls. So first, we're going to start with Washington, as always. UW, they are in the Fiesta Bowl, although they were not in the Pac-12 championship and beat the Cougs in the Apple Cup. So they still had a great season under Coach Peterson. So Coach Pete goes to Glendale, Arizona, friendly confines. He's been there before, won 2 Fiesta Bowls with Boise State, so that should be kind of a home away from home for Coach Pete. Really excited for them and the Huskies just to be in that game without going to the Pac-12 championship. UW is going to the Fiesta Bowl. WSU, they get the Holiday Bowl. They are playing Michigan State, so that should be a really good matchup. I think WSU in the final rankings was number 13, and Michigan State's number 15, so that should be a pretty good game with Luke Falk and the young Michigan State team as well. And then dropping down into Oregon State, they finished the year 1-11, so they're not going to go bowling this year, but Oregon, they play Boise State in the Las Vegas Bowl. We'll get to more Boise State in a little bit with them coming off the Mountain West Championship win. There was a thriller in Boise, but Oregon plays Boise State in the Vegas Bowl, and that should be a good draw for them after going 7-5 on the year. Going into Utah, BYU finishes 4-8. They're not going bowling for the first time in a while, but they still picked it up at the end of the season, having some tougher part of their schedule being over. They're starting off 1-8. They won the last 3, so they finished 4-8 on the season. Their offensive coordinator got fired, so that kind of a big deal for BYU, but it's looking like it's going to turn around a little bit. They're going to get a lot healthier with Magnum being at the helm. So dropping down in to Salt Lake, Utah versus West Virginia in the heart of Dallas Bowl. They go 6-6, and they sneak into the bowl season. I know a couple of teams in the FBS actually were bowl eligible and didn't get into bowls as they trimmed down bowl season this year, which is good because it makes it more of a competitive type game and I guess competitive type bowling season instead of having the 5-7 teams being allowed to go bowling. It makes it less special, especially for the teams that really deserve to be in the college football, not just playoff, but the college football bowls as well. So I'm really excited for some of these games. Utah versus West Virginia has a really good opportunity to be one of the more underrated games of the year. But other than that, Boise State, as I said before, they are going to the Las Vegas Bowl. I wanted to touch on their win against Fresno State. They win 17-14 on the Blue. Really, really, really good game here in Boise, as Adam Amin was actually calling the game here, and I saw that they stormed the field after the game. I was there for most of the game, but Adam Amin had a really cool shot of the crowd storming the field and the ceremonies at the end of the game. So if you want to go check out some of the pictures from that, you can go to Adam Amin's Twitter. But really cool game. Boise State wins 17-14. Vander Esch, Defensive Mountain West Player of the Year, gets the last second interception to seal it for Boise State. That was a really cool moment. If you don't know where Vander Esch is from, he's from Salmon River, Idaho, which has a population of about 500 people. He played 8-man football for most of his high school career, so crazy that he's even able to be in D1, but there's talks that he might leave early and go to the NFL, which would be a huge blow to Boise State, but man, what a cool story for Vander Esch. Really happy for the kid and going to the Vegas Bowl. Hopefully Boise State gets a little bit healthier, as I know they're banged up going to the Mountain West Championship game, but that is actually going to do it for our regional roundup with 4 of the 6 teams going bowling. Pretty good year for teams around the region. We look for all of the Pac-12, Mountain West, and the independents to show out in the bowl season. Some West Coast pride going on here in the Northwest. But really, really fun college football season. Bowl season never disappoints either, so I'm excited for that. But that is going to do it for our regional roundup. We are actually going to get into some good vibes, bad vibes. So without further ado, let's get started.
Good vibes, bad vibes.
All right, let's get started here for some good vibes, bad vibes. First off, I want to talk about the good vibe. I think he's been good vibe probably the last 4 weeks for me. But Baker Mayfield seals his Heisman hopes over TCU in the Big 12 championship game. 41-14, Baker Mayfield and the Sooners go over TCU. Baker Mayfield had 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, and 243 passing yards over a really good Kenny Hill-led TCU team. That was really fun to watch. All of the games across the board were really exciting to watch. If you missed the UCF game, the 2 overtimes, that was absolutely nuts to watch. UCF seals their undefeated regular season, going 12-0 and going bowling. I believe that they're going into the Peach Bowl against Auburn, but that is still, I believe, being decided. But we should, by the time this podcast is out, you should know that UCF is in one of the NY6 bowls that's not in the college football playoff, but nonetheless, Scott Frost, I believe he's taken the job at Nebraska, so that is really good for him. He had an opportunity to take the Oregon job, but I know him and Bill Moose have some sort of relationship when he was the offensive coordinator coordinator at Oregon. So really good job that UCF and Scott Frost did with that program. They were 0-12 in 2015 and turned it around to 12-0 in 2017. That is absolutely insane. That turnaround should be well recognized across the country. But that is my good vibe. Going with Baker Mayfield, a little off subject. I believe that could be a second good vibe. Scott Frost and UCF going 12-0. If you haven't heard of Shaquem Griffin's story, the one-handed middle linebacker for UCF, that story is absolutely crazy as well. With him being the brother of the Seahawks cornerback Shaq Griffin, both of those players have been really, really fun to watch, and their stories are incredible as well. But those are my good vibes. My bad vibe is going to be the Giants benching Eli here. They lose 24-17 to the Raiders. Geno Smith goes 21 of 34 for 212 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Although that sounds like a good stat line, it just felt like they were out of the game the whole time. And the Giants benching Eli, it seems like an era is over with New York. And with that era being over, I don't know what the next step is. And I feel like, for me especially, I just believe that all the hype surrounding the Giants really crushed their hopes this year, because I still believe they're a great team. And with Odell Beckham and with Sterling Shepard out and all of these receivers and cornerbacks being out, they're injury riddled. And for me, it's too early to blow that thing up. And I know they had a bad year and McAdoo is getting crushed, but they had a bad draw, they got some injuries, and then they had a bad season. And I don't believe that you can blow it up after one season, even though the players were hurt. It would be a totally different story if Odell Beckham Jr. and Sterling Shepard and those guys were healthy and then they had this record. That would, I believe, be on the coaches. But this seems like a knee-jerk reaction coming from a fan base who has won a couple of Super Bowls, and Eli Manning winning a couple of Super Bowls as well. I still believe that team is really, really good, and it's really sad to see them just throw away a quarterback that is going to be in the Hall of Fame one day for another quarterback in Geno Smith that, quite frankly, I did not know he was even in the NFL still. And he was on the last episode on Thursday with with the chair facts as well. So really interesting going forward. I think you give it one more year if you're the Giants. It's re-sign Eli, get Odell healthy, and get your wide receiving core healthy again and see what happens. If you have another year like this, then you can throw it all away. But it just, knee-jerk reactions kill not only NFL but college football as well. But those are going to be my good vibes, bad vibes for the week. Again, Adam Amin was absolutely incredible on the podcast. If you are listening to this, share it, tweet it out, retweet it, share it on Facebook. If you guys could get this podcast out, it'd be absolutely incredible, as having Adam Amin on has been huge for the podcast. So I, again, really appreciate Adam for coming on and spending time here at the Armchair Army podcast. So that is going to do it for me. Thank you guys for listening. A new episode is dropping Thursday as well. I believe we are going to have Noah Schmick on the podcast from KUGR Radio up in Pullman. But that is going to do it for me here at the Armchair Army podcast. I appreciate everybody listening who is on the podcast today. Having Adam Amin on was absolutely incredible. He did not disappoint, like I said earlier, but we are going to have bigger and better podcasts moving forward as well. So this is only the beginning. I appreciate you guys listening. All of the support we've gotten over the 17 episodes and over 600 downloads has been awesome. But thank you guys for listening again. You guys have a great rest of your week.